the secret and conspiracies, the fringe and the supernatural. This is a show where we do little to no research on our topics. We are not professionals in any field except speculation. This is the Secret Transmission Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about Guy Fawkes and the Gunpowder Plot. I am your host, Toby, and alongside me are my co-hosts. Please introduce yourselves.
Rudy.
Tyler.
Kristen.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
So, today, we are going to be talking about Guy Fawkes. And this is supposed to be an episode after Halloween, but it's a guy whose face is now very famous as a Halloween costume. Well, not a Halloween costume, but it's
An advocate.
Kinda.
Yes,
V for Vendetta really put him on the map.
Yeah. So today, like I said, we are going to be talking about Guy Fawkes and the Gunpowder Plot, as that's what made Guy Fawkes famous. Mm-hmm. The Gunpowder Plot was a plan to blow up the House of Parliament during the state opening on November 5th, 1605, killing King James I and lots of other people. So, like I said, like we've already mentioned, V for Vendetta, you may know him. You may know the movie, the comic. It was something that was written by a comic book legend, Alan Moore. If you want to know who Alan Moore is, he's the guy who has wrote Batman the Killing Joke, From Hell, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, a lot of Swamp Thing, The Watchmen, and a billion other titles that he's had.
The Watchmen's good, though.
Yeah, so Alan Moore's version of Guy Fawkes, well, Alan Moore didn't come up with it. His artist did. The face. The one that, like, Anonymous?
Anonymous?
I've already messed up. Jeez.
Anonymi?
Yeah. The one that Anonymi
More
uses.
than one?
Plural.
So it's that mask, it's that face. That's apparently what Guy Fawkes sort of looked like. So, a little about Guy Fawkes. Guy Fawkes, also known as Guido Fawkes, was believed to be born in 1570. I don't know if there's an official date for him. I couldn't find one. But back then, you were baptized? Jesus.
Two.
Tis gonna be a good night.
Yeah. I can't say words.
I was baptized.
I was baptized.
So, he was baptized on April 16th, and it's usually you do this within about 3 days of a child being born.
Okay.
So, maybe April 13th, 1570?
So April-ish.
April-ish, yes. April 1570-ish.
April Fool's Day.
He was born in North Yorkshire, England. He was the second of 4 children. His parents were Edith and Edward Fawkes. There's a cattail on my face. Get out of here, cat. His father...
3.
You know what, guys? I'm quitting the This is the last episode. All I do is embarrass myself every week.
I'm never reading another
Get this
script
guy
again.
a speak and spell. Jesus.
His father died when he was 8 years old. His mother remarried to a Catholic man. He attended St. Peter's School in York. So, it's also very important to bring up, during this time period, Catholics were being punished for their beliefs.
Right, because it was mostly Protestant back then.
Right. And in the 1530s, Henry VIII wanted a divorce. This is why it was a Protestant. Mostly Protestant. This is a rough summary.
Right.
So, Henry VIII wanted a divorce. The Pope tells him no. It's against the religion. King Henry ended the relationship between the English Church and Rome. In short, he was able to get his divorce, but he also sent the country into a panic. The country ended up becoming a Protestant country and outlawed Catholicism. If you did not attend a Protestant church during this time, you could be fined, and it seems like you would have been a traitor to your country. So basically,
What if you attended? Do you get a sign-on bonus?
no, you just wouldn't be
It wouldn't be persecuted.
right.
So Henry VIII was like eating a turkey leg going, I do what I want.
Right. I'm Protestant. I can get divorced. Come here, bitches.
But that's basically
On to the next.
what it was.
Yeah.
Get me my bathtub.
So several students with Fawkes, John Rye and his brother Christopher, Oswald Tesmond, Edward Oldcorn, and a few others, they all became priests. Oswald Tesmond described Fawkes as pleasant of approach and cheerful of manner, opposed to quarrels and strife, loyal to his friends. So after Fawkes left school, he entered the service of Anthony Brown, the first Viscount Montague. What is that word? Montague?
Montague, yeah.
I don't
Montague.
Understand.
Montague?
You're here in Texas, it's Montague.
Well,
Because
I
there's
think
a
that's
county,
the way you have it
but
spelled. It's Montague.
it's probably, yeah.
All these like
Or Montague, yeah.
royals and like the upper class, I don't really know all their positions. I just was like, well, this might be important for someone that's trying to
Your
learn.
problem is you give yourself the hardest to read.
I know. Well, this guy apparently didn't like him and shoot him off. He was later employed by Anthony Maria Brown, the second Viscount Montague, who succeeded his grandfather at the age of 18. Some sources claim that Fawkes married and had a son somewhere in between all this, but I didn't really see anything else on it. So there may be a little Fawkes running around.
Speculation.
So
Like a rabbit. That's what all those anonymous people are. Little Guy Fawkes everywhere.
can you read the thing about his military career?
See how
Wasn't
hard
he
it
a
is you gave me.
pyrotechnics expert or whatever?
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a second.
Jump the gun there, Rudy.
Always,
Yeah.
every episode he has a good where he jumps everything. He's like asking something that I'm gonna touch on in just a second.
You're like, damn it, that was going to be my conclusion.
Okay, so in October of 1591, Fawkes sold the estate he inherited from his father. Not sure if this was his actual father or the father that remarried.
Yeah, see, I couldn't find the information to figure out which father this might be. So maybe stepdaddy or actual father that he inherited this from.
So he fought in the 80 Years' War for Catholic Spain against the Dutch Republic. 80 Years' War was over a heavy level of taxation, and Spain tried to have a policy of strict religious uniformity for the Catholic Church. He fought from 1595 until the Treaty of Vervins, or Peace of Vervins, in 1598. He joined Sir William Stanley, an English Catholic and veteran commander in his mid-50s who had raised an army in Ireland to fight in Leicester's expedition to the Netherlands. Stanley's had been held in high regard by Elizabeth I, but following his surrender of Deventer to the Spanish of 1587, he and most of his troops had switched sides to serve Spain. Fawkes became a junior officer and fought at the siege of Calais, I bet you it's Calais, sorry, it's Calais, Calais, in 1596, and by 1603 had been recommended for a captaincy. That year he traveled to Spain to seek support for a Catholic rebellion in England. He used the occasion to adopt the Italian version of his name, Guido, and in his memorandum described James I as a heretic.
So he's already James,
bashing, yeah.
Yeah, he's already upset with politics at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
So
being a
James-
Catholic, he's always been probably a little PO'd about the how the country is ruled.
So it says James I was to have all the Papist sect driven out of England. He denounced Scotland and the king's favourites among the Scottish nobles, writing, "It will not be possible to reconcile these two nations, as they are for very long."
So by this time, Fawkes was described as a man highly skilled in the matters of war. His appearance was a tall, powerfully built man with thick reddish-brown hair, a flowing mustache in the tradition of the time, and a bushy reddish-brown beard.
That was my mustache.
So Guy Fawkes was the ginger?
I'm pretty sure, yes.
That's what you're trying to get at? They were trying to sugarcoat it. So rule number 1, if you want to start a war,
be a ginger.
speak up.
Oh.
That's it. No.
I was way off.
Speak up. And start bashing.
We are not in short supply of that in 2016.
No.
He was also a man of action, capable of intelligent argument as well as physical endurance, somewhat to the surprise of his enemies. So, now we're going to get into some of the Gunpowder Plot. The Gunpowder Plot was a group of men who wanted to blow up the House of Parliament and King James I, like I said earlier. King James promised Catholics that he would not persecute any that will be quiet and give an outward obedience to the law. He believed that exile was better than capital punishment. Before the Gunpowder Plot was ever came up with, several other plots to get the king out of power were tried. So, and I did very minimal research on this, but I just thought it was interesting that this wasn't the first attempt at that time to take the king out of power. There was this plot called the Bye Plot. The priest William Watson and William Clark planned to kidnap James and hold him in the Tower of London until he agreed to be more tolerant towards Catholics. Cecil received news of the plot from several sources, including the archpriest George Blackwell, who instructed his priest to have no part in any such schemes. Then there was the main plot, which involved removing James and his family and replace them with Arbella Stuart, who was a noblewoman who was for some time considered a possible successor. Amongst others, they approached Henry IV of France for funding, but were unsuccessful. All those involved in both plots were arrested and in July and tried in autumn 1603.
You'd think if they didn't want someone being, like, who didn't want to be part of Catholicism, they'd be, like, just kind of, like, ban them in some way or, like, black them out of everything instead of, like, forcing them, because you don't want a non-believer.
Yeah, but this
they're,
is,
like,
this is a
all
different
for
time.
it, and that's...
Well, you got to remember, it was Catholic until that one
king.
Yeah, but isn't that, like, false
I
religion?
wanna
Like,
get laid.
you're just making someone be there that doesn't... I mean... They're not a saved soul if they're just
that's
there
what
because of it.
That's what a lot of wars are about, is freedom of religion,
Right.
and that's, I mean...
Isn't that how America, like all the colonies, were founded?
Yeah.
Religious persecution.
Yeah, but it'd be like, bye, see ya, you're on your own then.
Well,
And
they
that you
did.
can only can
Yeah.
try to like save them, but you're not supposed to like force.
I mean, different religions...
I get it, but
I don't...
different is true.
Huh?
Different religions is true.
Well, I'm just saying, like, some beliefs are like, it's our beliefs or no.
Okay, it went away. Sorry.
I don't know. I just would more or less. I don't know. I feel like instead of that takes away from. This is so stupid of me to sit there and go off on, but I feel like it's taking away from the actual church business, trying to like focus on these people versus being like, okay, let's.
Yeah, and you would think that, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. It's taken away from the church business.
I mean, you know, they're not like having time to focus on like religion and church if they're just trying to convert all the time.
Rudy?
Oh, is this that little...
Well,
What's this?
I was going to see if you wanted to read this little poem. I got something later for you to read, but do you want to read this little poem, the 5th of November?
The 5th of November, let's see. Remember, the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Guy Fawkes and his companions did the scheme contrive to blow the king and parliament all up alive. 70 barrels lay below to prove England's overthrow, but by God's providence him they catch, with a dark lantern light a match, a stick and a stake for King James's sake.
What's
Okay.
a score?
The 70 would have been like 30 barrels. Like a score was like 10.
That's what I said.
something like
People
that,
look
yeah.
at me,
So that's only because I
so
watched
no
a few
one
documentaries.
noticed. This fool
Hold on, we'll get to all
rolling
that.
in 30 barrels
Hold on.
to town square.
That's actually kind of interesting to know because he did it in
But
a
then
very
again, I
clever
mean,
way.
we did have the Trojan horse. I mean,
Right. All right. Here's the last little tidbit. Let's see. If you won't give me one, I'll take two. The better for me and the worse for you. A rope to hang the Pope. A pen or cheese. What is that?
To
A pen
choke.
orth of cheese to choke him. A pint of beer to wash it down, and a jolly good fire to burn him. Holla boys, really?
Holla back, boys.
Yeah, holla
Holla
boys.
back, boys.
I make the bells ring. Holla boys, God save the king. Hip hip hooray.
If someone can loop Rudy reading that part
No.
and like add a little funky beat to it, I'd appreciate that.
I will smack somebody in my clown suit.
It's gonna happen now.
So, during the Gunpowder plot, there were 5 main people. Robert Catesby, who was the mastermind behind the conspiracy. John Wright was basically like a swordsman, just a good hand. Thomas Wintour was Catesby's best friend and had money and connections. Thomas Percy, he had a family in high places, and he also helped fund the conspiracy. Guy Fawkes, explosions expert from his military days.
Wasn't Percy also the inside guy? Wasn't he also part of Parliament in a way?
I think it was Catesby.
Was it Catesby?
Yeah, Catesby was more of the inside guy.
One of those guys was. I remember that.
So again, the reason they wanted to blow up the king and everyone else was to reestablish a Catholic monarch government. To reestablish a Catholic monarch government, and in Church of England, the king was a Protestant and made a speech about how basically Catholics wouldn't be able to get married, own any property, leave wills. They wouldn't even be recognized by the state as they existed. So they were being treated lesser and lesser than everyone else. So that was one of the main pushes that these 5 got together to destroy the king.
and then Christianity was born. You limit someone, separation of church.
So the plan was to dig a tunnel under the House of Parliament and set up barrels of gunpowder to blow the king up. So the tunnel part may have been more trouble than thought.
I recant my statement. How did no one see him building a tunnel?
But
What are you doing, sir? Just digging.
a lot of people think this may have been something that was like kind of added to the story afterwards to like make it more juicy.
Like El Guapo.
Right.
So we don't know if it's a myth that the tunnel was being dug and they were just like, fuck this, or if, whatever. So Thomas Percy was able to rent a storage room directly under the Parliament in the Undercroft. So they had like this cement, basically a basement.
There is just stuff wrong with this in all manner.
I know it's
You
crazy
don't
how
rent out freaking storage buildings underneath the king. Who does that?
well
They did 400
Trial and
years
error.
ago.
Yeah, trial and error.
Right.
We learned our lesson, sir.
So Guy Fawkes and the other men were able to obtain around 36 barrels of gunpowder and have them placed in the storage room by July 20th, 1605. So again, back in that time, everything was stored in barrels, So it was
Booze and gunpowder.
no everything. I mean anything.
Spices, tea.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it
'cause
wasn't
they did
really.
during the tea party. Yeah.
Well, and the
Threw
barrels they
everything
were
over in
using
barrels.
looked a lot like rum barrels and wine barrels that were just everyone and their brother was moving a barrel around, so nobody thought it was weird.
And there's a lot of stuff happening in this area because it's like in the middle of a town.
You thought there'd be some kind of like the police would start trafficking the barrels. I mean,
Well, they're not going to be suspicious.
they
of
have
anything.
they cork them and put spouts in them, usually.
Yeah.
Or you can lift the top on them. I
No
mean,
different. I mean, if you had 2 barrels, one was filled with gunpowder, one with wine, how do you know the difference?
but I'm just
You can
saying.
sniff it.
If everything is rolling around in barrels today, do you not think the cops would be like, "Oh,
Yeah,
we're
no.
definitely doing traffic
Yeah,
stops"?
no, and no one would ever get anything anywhere.
Guns for everything. They'd be
I'm going to
lifting all
try
kinds of
that. I'm going to
barrels.
dress up like someone from 400 years ago, and I'm just going to roll a barrel down the road, and,
And
see
no
if I
one
get
will
pulled
know.
over.
No
I'm going to
one
see if
will
the
know.
cops will stop me and go, what are you doing, guy?
Not unless they listen to the podcast. Will they know? They'll be weary.
God, it would suck if some local cop actually did listen to the podcast. He's like, I'm gonna be watching for some kids in barrels. You better wait.
Hey.
It's wine, officer. Trust me. What's your name? Tom Thomason?
Yeah.
We're going to a party.
So, they had the plan was already set that they were gonna blow the shit out of the king during the Parliament, but on July 28th, the threat of a little thing caused a delay. That little thing was the plague. The plague.
Tad.
The plague.
The plague, the one that we all know and love, is what. So they had to
Like, is
cancel.
your door marked in red? You can join us in blowing up the king. Come on.
Well, what they did was all the royals, all the higher ups, they left and went on a summer camp trip or something. They left the country.
They basically took a like
Summer
you said,
cruise.
they went on some kind of excursion out in the middle of nowhere where nobody could find them for many months.
So they planned on delaying it from July 28th to November 5th. Remember the 5th of November, just like the poem says.
So Guy Fawkes survived the plague.
Yes,
Yeah.
no, they all did. So Guy Fawkes left the country too for a short time.
Oh.
And when he came back sometime in late August, before November, Fawkes and Wintour discovered that the gunpowder in the croft went bad.
Sorry.
So I watched a documentary, and basically they were like, yeah, gunpowder can like get cruddy looking, but it still ignites. Like they showed
those
it.
barrels aren't the best of sealed.
Well,
things
and that's
anyway.
that's what I was thinking as it's moisture. Like who knows
Should've
what.
got a keg.
So anyway, so it went bad.
God, 35 barrels worth.
So they had to get more gunpowder, and
In a time like that, where do you get gunpowder from?
Well-
you know, like that's army like.
no. At the time, it was pretty. It was still hard to come by, but it was very overflowing.
Plus, he had war connections.
Right. All the people in the conspiracy had connections to someone. They had money. When you have money, you can get anything.
Plus, France was just getting over a war.
Does it say
weren't
how
they?
he
So
has
they had-
all his money though? Because I mean,
Because of the other conspirators. That's why I told you, like,
They
their
were
parts
funded.
in it. Like, they were fully funded by the 5 conspirators. Fox was just the boom boom guy.
Right.
So they had to get more gunpowder. They brought in firewood and you know, shit to cover up everything, to kind of hide some of the stuff. On October 14th, Catesby invited Francis Thrus. How do you say his last name?
Thresham?
Thresham. That's right. I remember now. Francis Thresham into the conspiracy. Francis was the son of a Catholic, Thomas Thresham, and a cousin of Robert Catesby. He had a large fortune from his father, but it had been being depleted by the fines, and he had an expensive taste, is what it said. So what I think is he was Catholic too, and he was being fined for being Catholic. So they had Francis join to help buy new gunpowder because they were getting low on funds because they had already bought 36 barrels, so they bought even more. On October 26th, an anonymous letter was sent to a man named William Parker. This is where I got confused. They call this guy William Parker, but in some of my research, they call him Lord Monteagle.
It looks like it's spelled Monteagle.
Lord Monteagle.
I don't think so.
So, if I don't know if it's the same person, but they call it the Monteagle letter when they talk about this letter. But I'm going to refer to him as William Parker because
It's easier than saying Monteagle.
Right, and I couldn't get it cleared up. So, anyways, he got this letter, and it was an anonymous letter, and it was telling him basically he shouldn't be at Parliament. Rudy, would you read this letter to us?
My lord, out of love I bear to some of your friends, I have a care of your preservation. Therefore, I would advise you, as you tender your life, to devise some excuse to shift your attendance at this parliament. How the fuck is he writing?
Well, you got to think of the
Right.
time and the lingo.
For God and man hath concurred to punish the wickedness of this time, and think not slightly of the advertisement, but retrieve yourself into your country. Retire yourself into your country where you may expect the event in safety. For there be no appearance of you stir, yet I say they shall receive a terrible blow, this parliament, and yet they shall not see who hurts them. This counsel is not to be condemned, because it may do you good and can do you no harm, for the danger is past as soon as I have burnt the letter, and I hope God will give you the grace to make use of it, to whose holy protection I command you.
So basically, he was, if you listened, he said, they will receive a terrible blow. You will not see who hurts them. It may be good for you, because he was also a Catholic. So, like, he was dropping a lot of hints without saying, hey, I got some guys. They're going to blow some shit up. So he took the letter to the Whitehall, whatever Whitehall is, and gave it to Cecil, the Earl of Salisbury. Yeah. I knew that was going to get a laugh for some stupid reason.
Salisbury.
Salisbury.
They make a mean steak, bro.
Anyways, he took this letter to Cecil, who told the Earl of Worcester. God damn it. Worcester. But they kept the conspiracy from the Keem, who... Did I say Keem?
Akeem?
Akeem?
I knew an African man named Akeem one time.
What is this, coming to America?
Yeah. They kept the conspiracy away from the damn king, who was hunting in somewhere far away and was not expected to be back for several days. I wasn't even going to fuck up that word.
Cambridgeshire?
I wasn't even going to try it.
One of the easier ones to pronounce, Cambridgeshire.
You know what? Y'all were making fun of me for Keem.
You said it.
I know, and y'all made fun of me. So, one of William Parker's servants, Thomas Ward, sent a message to Catesby about Parker handing off the letter. So now our conspirators know about the plot. Or know that the plot has been told to the king's men.
Right.
Francis had to convince... Oh, wait.
No one has been able to figure out.
No one has been able to figure out the identity of who actually wrote the letter, but Francis, one of the conspirators, was the main suspect. He actually had to convince the other guys that he didn't do it, but tried to tell them that they needed to abandon the plot. Like, he said, I didn't do it, but you guys should quit. So, Salisbury was already aware of the certain... Sorry, cat. I kicked her. Salisbury was already aware of certain stirrings before he received the letter, but did not yet know the exact nature of the plot or who exactly was involved. He elected to wait and see the events unfold. Like, he wanted to try to figure it out, but this letter helped him out a lot. The letter was shown to the king on November 1st. He gave the order to search above and below for anything that might blow due to the letter, because you remember? They said,
poet.
You will suffer a severe blow, or whatever it said. So they took that as a hint. It's like the fucking Riddler in Batman. The Riddler leaves everything for you to stop him. So, on November 3rd, Percy, Catesby, and Wintour had a final meeting where Percy told his colleagues that they should abide the utmost trial, and reminded them of their ship waiting at anchor on the Thames. Times? Why is that Times? Thames?
It's the Times River, right?
I don't know.
That's how it's pronounced.
I don't know. I live in America.
Or Thame. A lot of people say Thames, but it's Times.
So, they had their plan to get out was, basically Fawkes was going to light it, haul ass to the ship, and boom. November. God damn it.
17.
Yeah, is that really what it is?
I don't know. I'm throwing out numbers.
November 4th, Digby was ready with a hunting party at Dunchurch, ready to abduct Prince Elizabeth, because that was one of the things that they were going to do in this plan. They were going to kidnap the princess, and once the king was dead, they were going to convince her to be Catholic, I guess, and because she would be in the line of becoming the ruler, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure who the Digby guy
If no
is.
brothers, then she'll be queen.
He just started popping up in my research, and I was like, oh, well, there's an extra name. Anyway, so that was part of the plan, was get the princess, keep her safe, and make her Catholic.
Just funny, they were just gonna board the ship and then, like, blow it. Like, those ships have, like, super jet power or something. Those things, like, don't even go without, like, rowers and shit, right? Those big old ships, like, back in the day,
Wind.
like the pirate
Sails.
ships. Yeah, like, you better hope you got some goddamn wind.
Right. No wind, no plot, no escape.
Right?
So they're
Give us a second, guys. We're gonna get out of here.
They're moving so slow.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Row! Get the damn oars, row!
The guards are sitting on the shore going, really? Really, guys? Come on. We're walking next to your ship. Just stop.
Get out of the boat! No!
Still touching. Still touching.
We ain't touching you.
Percy visited the Earl of Northumberland, who was involved in the conspiracy. Oh, who was uninvolved in the conspiracy, to see if they could throw off the rumors surrounded the letter to William Parker. So they tried to, take... help me out here. They tried to...
So they dug themselves in a hole, and they're trying to convince them that the poem wasn't right.
Well,
right?
the letters to William Parker, they were trying to say, like, no. Convince everyone that that's nonsense. Percy returned to London and assured Wintour, John Wright, and Robert Keyes that they had nothing to do, they had nothing to be concerned about. That same evening, Catesby, likely accompanied by John Wright and Bates, set off to the Midlands. Fawkes visited Keyes and was given a pocket watch left by Percy to time the fuse, and an hour later, Rookwood received several engraved swords from a local cutlery. So they were, like, getting ready to defend themselves. Okay? And they had... everything is ready to go. So let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll find out what else happened.
It's a real break.
Yeah.
Are you feeling the effects of the PG era? Do you miss the beer drinking and middle fingers? There is a cure for you.
Watch Talk Wrestling!
This is Scotty Stevens.
And this is Blown Star.
We bring you all the action and drama of the Monday Night Wars.
WWF Monday Night Raw takes on WCW Monday Nitro from 20 years ago.
Interact with us on Facebook and Twitter.
Download us on Podbean, iTunes, and Stitcher. Hey, this is Knock from the Geek Ogre Podcast. Tune in every week as we discuss movies, TV, comics, and video games. We are on Podbean, iTunes, Satchel, or on your favorite podcast app. You can find us on Facebook or Twitter at Yogurt Podcast and weigh in on our weekly topics.
You ready?
Now I'm ready.
You son of a bitch. We're back now. That's staying in.
Oh, it's not.
Yes, it is, motherfucker.
Then all your
Oh,
screw-ups stay.
I hope you know in one of the more recent episodes, at the very end, I have us singing a Limp Bizkit song at the very end.
Wait, when were we singing a Limp Bizkit
Oh, we were
song?
singing "Rollin'" or something for some goofy reason, and so there's a little Easter egg if anyone actually listens to all the way In fact, a lot of the time I do add little Easter eggs at the very, very end, but you have to stay and listen to all the static and shit to get to it. So, if you've listened to it, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so back to Guy Fawkes and not Limp Bizkit.
Thank God.
You son of a bitch. So, there are two different stories of the events that happened on the search of Parliament. The King's story, they basically searched Parliament on November 4th. They found a large pile of firewood in the undercroft beneath the House of Lords. They also found a man who told them that the firewood belonged to his master, Thomas Percy. They left to report their findings, at which time the man who may have been Fawkes also left the building. The mention of Percy's name brought up a lot of suspicion, as he was already known to the authorities as a Catholic rebel. The king wanted a more thorough search of the area, so late that night, the search party returned to the undercroft, and they found Fawkes dressed in a cloak, a hat, wearing boots and spurs. He was arrested, and when they asked him, "Who are you?" he said, I'm John Johnson. That was his name.
Which, from what I understand, is their equivalent to us saying John Smith.
Yeah. Like, it's a common name back then. So, him saying John Johnson, he wasn't just being like, my name's Robert Robertson. It's not like it was something stupid like that. It was actually something that was pretty common.
Right. You know, if you don't want to say what your name is now, you just, I'm John Smith. They're like, shut up, get the fuck out of here.
And for any Robert Robertson that I offended out there, I'm sorry. It's not a stupid name.
Or
it's
Tom
very
Thomason that I said earlier. I apologize.
Where was I?
John Johnson.
He was carrying a lantern, which is now held in the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford. He had a pocket watch, several slow matches, and touchwood?
Touchwood?
What's touchwood?
Torchwood, maybe?
Yeah, maybe torchwood. We'll call it touchwood because that sounds
dirtier.
Sexual.
Yeah.
The barrels of gunpowder were discovered, hidden under the piles of sticks and coal. Fawkes was taken to the king early that morning, and November 5th. So, I said there was two stories. Maybe I didn't write down the second story of what happened. But I think it's...
the second telling.
Yeah, from what I understand, the second telling of what happened is pretty similar. After Fawkes, or John Johnson, was arrested, the rumor started to spread that the conspirators traveled northwest to Dunchurch using horses provided by Digby. Thomas Winder stayed in London and even went to Westminster to see what was happening.
Probably a dog show. The Westminster Dog Show?
Over my head. What?
It's where they have a very popular dog show every year. The Westminster Dog Show. Continue on. My joke just failed on you and everyone else because they're all playing on Twitter and Facebook.
So, when he realized the plot had been uncovered, he took his horse and made for his sister's house at Norbrook before continuing to Huntington Court. The group of 6 conspirators stopped at Ashby St. Ledgers, where they met Robert Wintour and updated him on their situation. They then continued to Dunchurch and met Digby. Catesby convinced him that despite the plot's failure, an armed struggle was still a real possibility, so they were maybe discussing going in there and attacking.
Right.
He announced to Digby's hunting party that the king and Salisbury were dead before the fugitives moved west to Warwick, which, that confused me.
Right.
I didn't quite understand why they would say, no, he's dead. He's done.
Yeah, let's get out of here. Come on.
In London, news of the plot was spreading, and the authorities set extra guards on the city gates, closed the ports, and protected the house of the Spanish ambassador, which was surrounded by an angry mob. And arrest warrant was issued against Thomas Percy, since his name was brought up
Right.
by Fawkes.
Or was it Fox? They don't know.
John Johnson. In Fawkes' first interrogation, he revealed nothing other than the name of his mother and that he was from Yorkshire. A letter to Guy Fawkes was discovered on him, but he claimed that the name was one of his aliases. Far from denying his intentions, Fawkes stated that it had been his purpose to destroy the king and parliament and that he acted alone. So he wasn't going to rat out his bros. Good man. He ain't no snitch.
But he did after like 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So November 6th,
3 days of continuous torture might do that to a person.
Yeah. On November 6th, Lord Chief Justice Sir John Popham figured out the names of some of the conspirators: Catesby, Rockwood, Keyes, Winter, John, and Christopher Wright, and Grant. Fawkes still tried to convince them he was the only one involved, and he was moved to the Tower of London, where the king had decided that Johnson would be tortured. Like we said, he went through 2 or 3 days worth of torture, and the king wrote a letter that said, "The gentler tortures are to be first used onto him, and thus by steps extended to great ones, and so God speed your good work." So basically, start easy, make it worse as you go. Fawkes may have been put in a manacles. So, like, would that be like handcuffs, like the big steel?
Like the chain ones from the wall? Yeah.
And hung from the wall, but they believe he was also put on a torture rack by Lex Luger. On November 7th, he confessed, and again, over the next following 2 days, he confessed even more and more. So they pretty much knew who was involved in everything. So back to the conspirators, they were on the run, trying to raid places for supplies, not getting any support from anyone because they didn't want to get caught up in all of it. You know, they just tried to kill the damn king. No one's going to be like, yeah, let me help you. Here, hide here. No one's going to do that.
I had nothing to do with it. He was that John Johnson guy.
The men were tired and desperate, so they spread out some of the now soaked gunpowder in front of a fire to dry it out. You know, some of that bad gunpowder. Although the gunpowder does not explode unless physically contained, so, like, because it's in barrels, will make the explosion, because it just
compressed.
Yes.
It's like a firecracker.
Right. So, but when it's just sitting out, it just kind of sparks. So...
Wouldn't that be embarrassing?
Well, this is where it gets embarrassing.
Yeah.
They had it. They were trying to dry it out in front of the fireplace or fire that they had going.
Oh my god!
And a spark landed on it, and the flames completely engulfed Catesby, Rockwood, Grant, and a man named Morgan, who was a member of the hunting party. So it was believed that Catesby had died during this.
I'm sorry,
but
that's horrible of me.
He didn't. John Grant was blinded by the fire, and most of the other guys, they just left. I guess the remaining men...
There's so many signs, okay,
Right.
not to do it, and they're just like full throttle and full force going
I'm gonna put
for
this
it.
gunpowder in front of a fire.
Like, I don't think mastermind is the word for these guys. Like,
See, and I doubt the validity of this story. Simply because if you're gonna mastermind a plot to blow up Parliament and you
it's
almost
like the
get
three
away with
blind
it,
mice going to blow up the king.
exactly. Why would you do something so idiotic at the end of your run unless you were just panicking?
They were tired.
They're missing their explosions expert.
I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
That's exactly what it is.
35 barrels of drying out and stuff. I mean, I guess it is exhausting. First, you got to roll them into where you're going. Now you got to dry it all out.
So, most of the guys, I think, gave up, pretty much. And Catesby and Grant and the Wright brothers, Rockwood and Percy, they just, I guess, sat around and waited for the King's men once they gave up. On November 8th, a sheriff and 200 men hit Wintour in the shoulder while he was crossing the courtyard. John Wright was shot. Then his brother and Rookwood, whatever. Catesby and Percy were killed by a single shot. Grant, Morgan, Rookwood, and Wintour were arrested. The trial of 8 of the plotters began on January 27th, 1606. The king and his family watched in secret. They were read the list of charges. Fawkes pleaded not guilty. Obviously, the jury decided otherwise. The Attorney General, Sir Edward Coke, told the court that each of the condemned would be drawn backwards to his death by a horse, so pulled, his head near the ground. They were to be put to death halfway between heaven and earth as unworthy of both. Their genitals would be cut off and burnt before their eyes, and their bowels and hearts removed. They would then be decapitated and the dismembered parts of their bodies displayed so that they might become prey for the fowls of the air.
Didn't they have a boat?
Yeah.
How are you getting the hell out of the country?
What happened to the boat?
Apparently they didn't sail fast enough.
Yeah. So on January 31st, 1606, Fawkes was dragged and his fellow plotters were hung and quartered. I guess quartered is what they were talking about. Like,
Wait, where were they drying out the powder at? Was it on their boat?
no.
So
It was, they were on land.
Total giveaway, guys.
So
It'd been funnier on a boat.
yeah, it would have. So Fawkes was the last to have all the tortures happen. He asked for forgiveness from the king and the state. Apparently, that didn't do him any good.
I'm really sorry I tried to plug you up. Please, can you give me another chance?
So, due to being weak from torture, the hangman had to help him climb up the ladder to the noose. And this is the part that people don't know what happened. He either climbed up way too high and like went higher than what the noose was hung at. Because remember, he was supposed to be hung and almost killed and then taken off of it and then tortured and then killed. So
that's where Hangman the Game comes from.
So he may have went up too high, or he jumped intentionally so he wouldn't just be hung and almost die. It snapped his neck, basically. What I'm trying to get to is it broke his neck. He didn't have to do all the rest of the suffering and, get his junk cut off and whatnot.
Smart man.
Yeah, so it was either an accident and it worked out for him, or he was like,
At least
fuck
he was
all
a
this.
mastermind of something, because everything else seemed to be failure.
So, even though he was dead, they still did all the quartering to him, cutting him up and doing shitty things to him. Just because. His body was then distributed to the 4 corners of the kingdom to be displayed as a warning to others who might be traitors. So, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we will talk about how the king celebrates November 5th and where the poem comes from and all that good stuff. So we will be right back.
Hey there, fellow podcast fans. Do you love comic books, and especially Swamp Thing? Get out of the bayou. So do we. Come check out the Parlapod Show, the world's only podcast dedicated to the muck-encrusted mockery of a man himself, Swamp Thing. This is some serious arcane audio as we chat with comic book professionals, reviews, spoofs, talk about back issues. Everything swampy under the sun happens here. Give us a listen at parlapod.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, Podomatic, our YouTube channel, and we're on every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern on podcastradionetwork.net. Join your hosts, Dave and John, parlapod.com. Let's go into the green. We'll see you in the swamps.
Greetings, heathens and harlots. My name is JD Blute, and I am one half of your World Intergender Tag Team Champions of the world. Along with my wife, Crises, we are the Crises vs. Blute Show. We are a comedy podcast that focuses on wrestling, horror, and some amusing personal anecdotes. You can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Google Play Music, or wherever you get your podcast from. Please check us out.
And we're back. Sick. We are back. Okay, so as I was saying, the king decided that he wanted to celebrate every year on the November 5th, the day that they caught Guy Fawkes and they caught all the shenanigans. So on November 5th, 1605, he had the London... How do you say that plural? Londoners?
Londonites?
London.
The folks of London.
The folks of London were encouraged to celebrate the king's escape from assassination by lighting bonfires.
Which isn't a very hard escape.
Yeah, they
dummies running.
I feel like they try to make it sound a little more heroic. Like bombs were going off and he's diving out the window. Like, man, not getting me
like
today.
Arnold Schwarzenegger of Kings.
So
you're not gonna get me today, conspiracy theorists.
So November 5th is the Thanksgiving for the joyful day of deliverance, and this was until 1859. Out of the 13 conspirators, Fawkes is the most known of the failed plot. The day was also called Guy Fawkes Night, Guy Fawkes Day, Plot Night, and Bonfire Night.
That's a lot of nights.
Yeah, well, they, different names.
Yeah.
So there is a conspiracy on this. Salisbury Steak Man, supposedly he's the one that set it up because he was the king's right-hand man, I guess, and basically did it to be like, hey man, I'm your man. So and also to kind of
reinforce anti-Catholic views.
Yes,
maybe?
Exactly. So it was gonna be like a double win for if that's the conspiracy's true. So I actually watched a documentary about what would have happened, because a lot of people are like, no, it wouldn't have hurt anyone. It wasn't enough. Well, this documentary, they recreated the entire basement with, and the basement had 7-foot wall cement of that time, a type of cement wall, and they put the same amount of gunpowder that was reported. I mean, they recreated the whole thing. It's a documentary called "The Gunpowder Plot: Exploding the Legend." I recommend it, but.
Yeah, it's really good.
Did you watch it too?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
They went to a military base because of the sheer amount of explosives they wanted to detonate. It was the only place in England they could find that would do it.
When they found out how much they were about to... They tested one barrel of gunpowder to see how big the explosion would be. So...
Yeah, but our gunpowder is probably more advanced
No.
than theirs was.
They did it exactly... It's the same gunpowder that we've used whole time.
They found a guy. They found a guy who studied the recipes of the gunpowders.
I was gonna say, how do we know? Because nobody saved anything.
So they exploded one barrel, and they had an explosions expert analyze the explosion, and they were like, I don't know, we may not be able to do this experiment because the blast may be too dangerously big. And they had to scoot their whole base back a big, huge amount, and it was pretty cool. The blast, no one would have survived in that whole building. No one would have survived. So yeah, I think.
So Guy Fawkes? He detonated it?
No. Guy Fawkes didn't detonate it. That's the king got away. Remember?
Then he didn't get away from nothing if he didn't detonate it.
No, he did. The king, they caught Guy Fawkes before he set off the explosion.
That's what I'm saying. A true getaway is if it's going on.
Right. But these guys, they recreated it and showed what
it would have been like.
And it would have killed everyone in sight.
It was a hell of a blast, that's for sure. Because there were other little buildings around it at the time too. So
I also want to talk about the ties with Anonymous, because again, it's the Guy Fawkes mask. Anonymous has picked up the mask as its face for the group. Most people describe the group as hackers or hacktivists. They are more like a resistance group or anti-establishment group. One of the websites that they are associated with describes them as an internet gathering with a very loose and decentralized command structure that operates on ideas rather than directives. So there's not one person in charge. Like, they all come with their ideas together and figure out like what they want to
Take down, pretty much.
go against.
So like they consist of little groups. Like we could
Yeah.
we could just be like, hey, we're anonymous. Let's go. Hack
Yeah, no,
something."
we could. If we wanted to start our own sect of anonymous, we could.
Or like
They've
little
taken down
splinter
some-
cells of hacker groups.
They've taken down some big things,
I'm down.
though.
Yeah.
Some
I
of
love
them
I
have
love
at
some of
least
their
big
videos and
things.
some of the things they've leaked, man. It's just been great.
So, for the most part, Anonymous opposes internet censorship and control, and they usually target governments, organizations, and corporations they believe are trying to censor or generally do wrong. Because there is no leader, membership is open to anyone who wishes to state that they are a member of the collective. Now, they do organize in some way to plan together, but no one person is in charge, like I said. They have a few rules. Don't disclose anyone's identity. Don't talk about the group, and do not attack media. They often use the tagline, "We are anonymous, we are legion, we do not forgive, we do not forget.
Wait a minute.
Expect us."
They've definitely attacked the media.
They've called them out. on a
Yeah,
bunch
but they've
of
also
bullshit.
If
hacked
they've done
through
wrong,
them.
yeah.
They've also hacked through them to attack the media, and they even had it to where they attacked them so well one time that they reopened a criminal case because they were reporting wrong on it.
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember that.
I like the anonymous group.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
So
Well,
are we saying we support Anonymous?
Oh, absolutely.
I do.
100%,
I-
man.
I mean,
I do.
now taking down our gaming world, no, but
that was
That wasn't.
that was
wasn't-
Lizard Squad.
Yeah, that wasn't.
no, they
nice.
did it too though. The anonymous people did it too.
I don't think. I think
It
it
was-
was a.
I thought they took down PlayStation one point in time. Anonymous did.
It was Lizard Squad. They took down Xbox One and PlayStation.
I thought that was just like someone just. I'm sure.
I thought that they said that it was anonymous saying pretty much, "Hey, look, we
I
can
haven't heard.
nothing." That I always heard that anonymous was pretty much against like media and like political, but also they were ones to be like, "Hey, you think your shit's safe and it's not. Look, we hacked it within this amount of time and took it over, and now you can't use it." That's what I always heard.
I don't know.
See, I've never heard of Anonymous doing that. I've always heard of them being the ones that will go after big people who are doing very, very
Pretty
bad
sure Lizard
things.
Squad's a lot
Yeah.
like that though.
Right.
Really,
Right,
they
right,
may
right.
be a small sect of I don't know, but like that's why you always see people wearing anonymous masks when they're protesting anything.
But see, that was the thing too, though. I see a lot of pictures with the anonymous mask turned backwards, so that means they're showing their face. But I thought anonymous was all about not showing their face.
Yeah, it's.
But you see a lot of pictures
Well,
where their
that-
mask
that's
is turned
why-
around and they're showing their
That's
face.
why a lot of the people who protest are probably not part of Anonymous at all. They're just wearing the mask to quote unquote.
Yeah,
rebel.
even in the documentary, they wore their mask.
Right.
It's more of a
Or they were
symbol.
blacked out.
Yeah.
It's more of a symbol as. Well, okay, like Alan Moore, the guy that created V for Vendetta, said that he said this about Anonymous using the V for Vendetta mask. I was also quite. Here, you read that.
Yeah, but isn't it the Guy Fawkes mask? Like it's,
Yeah.
And V for Vendetta came out
I'll
after.
let you read all that.
I was also quite heartened the other day when watching the news to see that there were demonstrations outside this Scientologist headquarters over here, and that suddenly flashed a clip showing all these demonstrators wearing V for Vendetta Guy Fawkes masks. That pleased me. That gave me a warm little glow.
So,
But he's thinking of it in a different manner.
well,
probably.
it's just like people gathering together and standing up for what they believe in is kind of what the mask stands for now. And even though, like, yeah, they're attacking whatever, it's more of a,
Didn't they
hey,
hack Scientology at one point?
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. So, according to Time, the protesters adoption of the mask has led it to become the top-selling mask on Amazon, selling hundreds of thousands a year. On May 23rd, 2009, protesters dressed up as V and set off a fake barrel of gunpowder outside Parliament while protesting over the issue of British MPs' expenses. The artist for V for Vendetta, David Lloyd, stated, "The Guy Fawkes mask has now become a common brand and a convention place card."
Convenient.
I knew I'd messed it up. That's why I was like, wait a minute. Became a common brand and a convenient place card to use in protest against tyranny, and I'm happy with people using it. It seems quite unique and an icon of popular culture being used this way. Also, there's a lot of myths going around that it's actually illegal to wear the Guy Fawkes mask. That's in the United States anyway. I couldn't find anything on that being true. So if anyone's like, it's illegal to conceal your identity, it's not.
No, it's not.
So wear it away. So anyways, that's all the Guy Fawkes, the Gunpowder plot, and where the anonymous mask comes from. The funny thing about it is, Anonymous is so anti-establishment, anti-corporations, except Warner Brothers owns V for Vendetta, which is a big company, and they pump out those masks and sell, like I said, hundreds of thousands of them a year. I don't know. Is that a little ironic, or?
Well, has whoever owns the rights to the mask, have they done anything to piss off Anonymous? To warrant any wrath or non-use of the mask?
No, I mean, like I said,
what if they already own Anonymous?
Yeah.
What if Anonymous owns them?
Alan Moore and David Lloyd, the writer and the artist, are both like, yeah, use it. Like, right. We completely support it.
They're like, that's cool.
So, any last words on anything?
Not really. It's just an interesting little tidbit in history.
Yeah, you can see where
it makes the movie it gives the movie a lot more sense, and the comic is kind of its little place in history.
Well,
blowing up Parliament and all that stuff.
And people can say like that Guy Fawkes and his merry band of bandits were trying to do good, but really they were doing. They basically, when it comes down to it,
they're terrorists.
They were terrorists.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for saying it, because
they were. I mean,
they wanted their religion over another religion, and they didn't like.
No, I thought the whole point was that they just wanted separation of religion.
No. They wanted to overthrow the government and get rid of the religion that was in play and put Catholics back in power completely. They didn't want to be like, hey, let's share this land.
Well, see, my understanding of it was they wanted their religion to be treated as equal as the other religions.
Man,
that's how I took it.
The way I see it, there's a very fine line between justice and terrorism, and
yeah, I feel
I'm confused because I thought that that he was against Catholicism. I didn't know.
No, he was for it.
He was pro Catholicism.
Yeah,
it was the government that was Protestant.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that's
all because the one guy wanted to get divorced. That's what started it all. Because he was Catholic originally.
And the majority of the country was Protestant. So here's the problem. Let's say that everything went to how they wanted. Guy Fawkes set everything off. They blew everything up. You still got 80% of the country is Protestant. Do you think that you're going to be able to overthrow the government? So it almost... I don't know. It just seems like
fear's a powerful motivator until other people become more scarier than you.
Yeah, but I mean,
am I wrong?
Okay, but think. Okay. Here's a good example. When 9/11 happened,
uh-huh,
all the Americans were like, "All right, I'm going over there. I want to shoot me some people." Don't you think that's what the Protestants would have done? There's no way the Catholics could have overthrown.
Well, not necessarily. That was 400 years ago. That was a different frame of mind.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying. It'd be hard for that small percentage of Catholics to rise up against the Protestants. I don't know. Again, this is a what if. This is Earth 2 nonsense. I'm just asking, but I don't know.
It's kind of one of those. Who would be more courageous in that regard? The Catholicist terrorist, or the 80% of the population would be like, you know what? I'm tired of this bullshit. Kick them out, get them out right now.
Yeah.
Which one? Which one you go for at that point?
I mean, we'll never know because that explosion never happened.
Right. Could have saved a whole lot of headache. Wasn't there an issue with the king? Also, they really didn't like him because he was either part Irish or Scottish?
Ooh, I don't know.
One of the documentaries mentioned that he wasn't very liked, even though he fit in with the majority of the people. He wasn't liked by a lot of the people because he kind of sort of was technically an outsider. I want to say it was Irish. I want to say he was...
But he still managed to be in the runnings to be a king?
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. He had somehow had claim to the throne, and a lot of people didn't like it. But I can't remember the details on that. There was an issue with that, too.
I think I remember something like that. I remember a lot of the stuff from history, like the whole him switching from Catholic
Protestant,
to...
Yeah, you're right.
Catholic to Protestant because
right.
he wanted to divorce his wife.
Uh-huh.
And there was probably more to it, but that's the short story of it all. Instead of getting real drug out into the details.
Right.
But...
Because, 2-3 weeks ago when I researched this, I remembered all that. And I was too busy fearing for my life being dressed as a clown earlier to remember all the details.
And that's our explanation of Guy Fawkes and the Gunpowder plot. Next week, we're going to be doing an episode on Malaysia Flight 370. So come back next week. Give us a rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. You can also find our show on Stitcher, Google Play, and YouTube. Just search for Secret Transmission Podcast. You can hear us on Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern on the Podcast Radio Network. Just go to podcastradionetwork.net. You can leave us a voicemail, 304-602-7444. You can follow us on Twitter at SecretTransPod, or you can send us an email, secrettransmission@hotmail.com. We hope you come back and listen to us try to explain the unexplainable.